How you going, guys? Curtis from Cutting Edge Engineering. So today we're going to be moving on with the next stage of our Franna crane project. I've ordered the material for the cylinder rods for the steering circuit, and I've also ordered all the seals. I know the air tanks and the air valves are readily available, so I can get them straight away. We've been contacting a lot of parts suppliers in the trucking industry to try and find spare parts for our brake assembly. So I was a little bit surprised to find out that the parts I need are not readily available here in Australia. Although they do look like all the other brake systems on trucks, they are slightly different. So I did end up taking the entire brake assembly up to the truck supplier so the parts interpreter could try and identify what it actually was. After having a good look at it, there were a few differences. The shoes weren't the same as what we could buy here in Australia. He didn't even have a listing for those. And the brake spiders had just enough difference that what is available here in the way of spare parts wasn't going to work. So the diffs in this crane, they are Dana Spices, which means they are American made. I could purchase the parts from America, but the freight to bring them here is just astronomical. And if I do have any issues, I still need to import stuff from America in order to get the crane going. I'd rather buy something I can get locally. So I did go down the path of looking for aftermarket parts or second-hand parts. I did find a diff at a local truck wrecker, but in order to get the one brake spider I needed, I had to buy the entire diff, and it was $7,000. So our best option is to buy new and current model parts off the shelf that are available from any truck supplier here in Australia. So before I go and order any parts, I am going to strip the other 3 wheels off the crane and their hubs to find out what condition they're in and if I need to order any extra parts. But before I can do that, I do need to jack up the crane and put it on stands just so everything's nice and safe. I'm also going to put the lock bar in for the articulation because the whole crane will be elevated and not sitting on tires. I don't want it to move, but before I do any of that, I am going to lift the boom up a little bit. It is hanging a little bit low and a truck nearly ran into it the other day. We'll get it started and get the boom in the air. I'll give it some aero stuff. As you can see, we are still having issues with the crane starting. We did think we eliminated all of that with what we had done by deleting the crane safe screen, because that was where the problem sort of started. It's still having dramas starting and it is shutting itself down for no reason. Obviously, we haven't eliminated the problem, so we are going to have to go back and do some more troubleshooting. So we were under the impression that the motor is quite new. It had a fresh engine put in it. I don't believe that because of how many leaks are currently on the engine. An engine that age shouldn't be leaking as badly as this one is. While I'm troubleshooting the issues with it starting and stopping, I'm going to do a compression test to find out how healthy this motor actually is. So I will end up getting onto that, but the first thing I need to do is get these wheels off. sounds bad. Righto guys, so we've got that hub and drum off. As you can see, the brake assembly is extremely corroded and it is completely seized, so it has not been working for a very long time. If you missed out on the history of this crane and where it came from, we were informed it came from a wash plant in a coal mine. In a wash plant, they do recycle the water and they do need to treat that with chemicals to kill anything in it. That water can become extremely acidic and it just starts to eat anything and everything. With the dust and the moisture that gets trapped inside the brake drums, it's no surprise that it is actually locked everything solid. It's a really good thing we took a look at this one. We're going to get the rest of the brake assembly off. This one is going to be replaced as well. When that rolls around like that, because it gets a greater distance from the center, it expands the shoes out to grab the inside of the drum. So that booster pushes the adjuster, which turns that, which expands that. It's obviously been trying, but it hasn't been around here for a very long time. You see how there's no wear on the S-cam. It's all rusty, so yeah. These haven't been working at all. It's actually bruised the end of that shoe trying to work. Righto, so that one's off. I'm going to get the two rear ones off as well. After I've got all that done and cleaned up, I'm going to go through and pressure wash all around the mounts of the diff so I can have a good look at that to see how bad the corrosion is. It does look like the threaded rods that hold the diff to the chassis, they do look pretty rusty. It's probably not going to be a big problem. Once I clean it, I'll have a better look at that. But now I'm going to get the back wheels and their hubs off as well.
Hi. Still fluffed up.
So if you're wondering why I'm hammering the wedges after I crack the nuts and I don't take the nuts all the way off, this style of rim known as a spider or a wedge lock, they actually use force on a wedge in order to lock the wheel onto the hub. Because they're a wedge, there is tension built up. If you don't release that kinetic energy by tapping them with a hammer, they basically become a projectile and they will fly, and they have been known to severely hurt people. You saw how much tension was in that. If the nut wasn't on there to catch it, it would have shot off like a bullet. So I can still spin that hub. Those brakes are supposed to be on at the moment. The front two brakes weren't working at all because of how seized they are. This one's probably in a very similar situation, but it probably does have a little bit more movement because there are tension on the shoes. So I am going to get underneath and back off the brake adjuster to see if I can make that free up, and then I can take it off. So that should spin now.
Oh.
It's full of water. Righto, so like the front one, this one is heavily corroded as well. The S-cams haven't been doing a great deal of moving. Everything's pretty well seized up. It also looks like there is water in the diff because the oil is milky. I don't know how it got in there, but we're gonna have to figure that one out too. So this assembly now needs to come off, and then I can do the last one. That one, bottom one moves. Yeah, I've had the axle out before. Look at the rust in the rim. And he sees. Notice that didn't drop. It's probably ultra blue or ultra black or something behind it.
Oh, jeez.
I've used 3 of the tags to lock the nut. You only need 1. Everything else only had a single tag bent down. That's a different nut. Watermarks on it. Moisture trap between the rollers and the cone.
Can we help you?
Come here. test cam sort of moves. Righto guys, so that is our last brake assembly removed. We're not going to be reusing any of these. They are too far corroded and not worth the effort to try and reuse them. So I'm really glad I went and checked out all the rest of the brake parts, because they're actually worse than I thought they were going to be. And it turns out we only actually had one brake working, which was on the back right hand side. Even though this side has a brand new booster on it, no one ever adjusted it. It wasn't working properly at all. So it definitely looks like there is water in the rear diff. There was a pretty good telltale sign that it is water, and that is because the humidity trapped in the diff made the nut that holds the hub on nice and rusty. I'm not sure how it would have gotten in there. I will have to drain that and get rid of all that dirty oil. We'll have to try and find out where that water is coming from. And something else I noticed, the brake drums are extremely corroded and they are glazed, which means they're going to need machining and sandblasting and then repainting in order to reuse them. So I'm not going to be reusing those because brake drums are quite cheap and they are easily accessible. The tyres are also extremely old. They were made in 2003 and there is a lot of sidewall cracking. And one more thing that I'd noticed taking off the rims and tyres, there is a lot of corrosion around the split rim. If you took that to a tyre shop, they probably would refuse to assemble it because it would have to be blasted, but because there's material missing, because rust does that, they're not safe to assemble. That's why they need to be blasted and inspected, and it's just not worth the money. The last thing you need when you are operating a crane is a tyre to blow out, because you could potentially put the crane on its side, you could damage a machine or something you are lifting, and it's not worth the risk of reusing those, so I'm just going to get new ones. So the crane was cheap when I purchased it, and we do know why, because it does need a lot of work. Even though I have to repair this and replace all these parts, it is still going to be a cheaper crane when I'm finished than it would be if I was to purchase something in really good condition or brand new. This is what projects are all about. So we've got prices and quotes for replacing all of the parts. It is actually quite cost effective to just replace everything than it would be to try and fix anything that I've pulled off it. Because we're replacing everything, I am going to upgrade away from the wedge lock system. Not only are they dangerous, but they are ugly. So what I'm going to be changing them to is the standard style of the 10 stud pattern, which you find on most modern trucks. Not only do they look a lot better, but they are easy to get rims for and they are easier to get parts for. And because I don't have a drift car, I'm going to bling out my crane.
Look out.
Right, so what I'm going to do is a compression test on the motor. What I need to do is remove all of the plugs in the head that go down into the cylinder chambers. Then I'm going to disable the fuel so it doesn't pump any fuel while I'm cranking over the motor. I'll then fit the compression gauge and take a reading of each cylinder. So the plugs that I'm removing, they are just a blanking plug. They would generally be used for a glow plug when the engine is in a very cold climate. In Australia, it's not cold, we don't need them. So now I'm just going to unplug the fuel pump and the fuel shutdown solenoid. This seems to be your new home because all I do is work on this. You just come and hang out with the crane.
Yeah.
We are hoping to see even compression over all 4 cylinders. If one is lower than the rest of them, it means there is something internally wrong. It could be a valve on the inlet or the outlet side. It could be bypassing the piston into the sump, so that would mean piston rings. If there's no compression at all, we've either got a blown head gasket or there's a hole in a piston. This will determine what the next step is. Bar. Six and a half. Ready? Five. So our compression test shows we've got 25 to 26 bar across all 4 cylinders. I think that is a little bit low. I believe Perkins engines are between 30 to 35 bar, but that should still be enough for the engine to run. We didn't have one cylinder that was extremely low compared to the rest of them. I don't think the compression is the issue. So the next thing we're going to get onto is testing the fuel system. I'm going to check fuel delivery up to the main pump via the lift pump, make sure we're getting plenty of fuel coming out of there, and then we will check delivery of fuel coming from the mechanical pump into the injectors. Heaps of fuel. There's fuel getting to the pump. So our lift pump is pumping plenty of fuel up to the main pump for the engine. So now we're going to go through and crack the injector lines on a couple of the cylinders and see if we are getting enough volume coming from the mechanical pump to feed the engine. Now when I wind the motor over, diesel should come out of there.
Nope, nothing.
Oh, actually, that's why. Okay, so I just wound that over without the stop solenoid plugged in. I plugged that in. Now it will allow fuel to go through the pump and come out the injector lines. That was my bad.
Okay.
Just tiny little bubbles.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
just dripping. Not much though.
No.
Should be more than that.
It should be. So we have found an issue with fuel delivery from the injector pump into the injectors, which is in line with the problems with the crane not starting and running. But we have done that test many times, and every time we do end up with a different result. Some days the crane starts and runs by itself without any issues. The following day it won't start unless you give it some aero start. Then it runs all day, no dramas. But now once it's running, it gives up halfway through and shuts itself down. So I have had 3 mechanics come over and have a look at this and go through the problems with me. And it's very confusing when the problem doesn't stay in one spot and it's not always the same result. I am not 100% familiar on how that particular pump works. I have done a bit of pump work in my time, but I've never done anything on a Perkins. So what I think the next best course of action is I remove the pump out of the crane, send it away and get it tested to make sure there's not something internally wrong with it, because I believe something inside of it is not working correctly and that's why it is starving the motor of fuel. But I'm not even going to try and take that pump off while the motor is still in the crane. There is just no room in there to work. It is a very narrow engine bay and they squeezed a lot of stuff in there. And because I have a lot of oil leaks to fix on the motor and the gearbox, it would be far easier if I pulled the motor out and did it all at once. But you'll have to stay tuned for the next video. We've run out of time today. Thanks for watching. How'd you start it? Oh wait, what was after that? So, what's next?
Just use the word and as I was taking off all the brake assembly.
Right. So, and they're much easier to take on and put on. And they're much easier to... So they would need to be machined... For fuck's sake. Go away, bird, you're distracting me.
Don't blame the bird.
It's the bird.
He's very cute.
He's the bird.
Can we help you? He's so cute.
We're gonna grab it. And one more thing that I noticed is the rims. And one more thing that I've noticed is the split rims. Oh, for fuck's sake. Definitely the bird. One of the other... what's wrong with you?
My ankle sitting for that long.
You need to do some fucking yoga.
You need to do the words right the first time.
I can say the words, you just need to put them in the right order. Can you please do a video where you do all the talking?
I don't know the mechanical stuff.
Well, I don't know words, but I know the mechanical stuff. So if we merge our two heads together... Go away. Not only are they dangerous, but they are ugly as a hat full of bum holes. So I'm going to change them out with something that's going to be nice to look at, and I'm going to paint the rims black just for Maddie.
He'll be hating on you. You're going to get a phone call in a minute. Jesus. It's longer than I thought.
That's what she said. You right?
Don't make bang sounds. I know
30,
you.
There's only 35 bar going through it, maybe. There we go. Bang!
Don't, I knew. Cling right.
Oh no! Stop it! Ow, that was my shin. Yeah, but this side's got a new brake booster on it, so it would have been adjusted by the last guy, but it's not on. They're on.
The brakes are on,
Yes.
but the wheel's turning.
Yeah.
Have any of the brakes been working? How have you been stopping this thing?
Oh, why? Why?
This one's been undone before, but would they have had to do that to change that booster?
No.
Oh.
How can you tell?
The paint off the bolts. Oh, goody.
What did they do?
Is that why there's that red tag on the booster? Is that like the do not open thing?
Yeah, do not undo. It'll say it on it. Not anymore.
Yeah.
There, do not undo it. Warning, spring loaded, do not disassemble.
Yeah.
Or you will have a bad day.
What's that?
ABS sensor.
None of the others had that though,
No.
did they?
That'll explain
that wire
it's not
there?
connected to anything.
That wire.
Yeah, so this one's all destroyed,
Yep.
crushed and fucked. That's what that's for.
Won't be reusing those.
Nah, straight in the bin. Right.
I can hear him. He's calling his friend. Oh, we got closer. Where is he?
Hear him.
Okay. Hello?
Where is it?
I
In the
can.
room. Sitting on the right.
Hello?
Unless you're going to come down here and undo that axle, fuck off.
They're helping by watching.
Not help. Sit, sit, sit. Stay. Homeless? Come here. Come on, over here. Sit. Come over here.
I'll do what I want.